Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 11th of March 2024, and these are the stories that we'll be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin with the day 157 of the conflict between Israel and Palestine that at the moment seems to go on unabated despite the fact that Ramadan has begun in that part of the world. A lot of people are under extreme duress, not only because of the number of casualties are increasing with every passing hour, the number of injured also increasing every hour, but the lack of facilities, whether it be health, whether it be water, food, or even normal day-to-day necessities are lacking. Israel is deliberately doing the, as I can say, quote unquote, needful, so as to not allow that aid to arrive through the route as it should be destined to. And the countries are using other routes such as air routes, but through that route or through the sea, the aid cannot arrive in due time or in enough quantities. At the same time, the brutalities by Israel on Palestine continue. We are going to discuss that and more in our first segment as far as this rate of casualties that has been increasing despite the fact that the holy month of Ramadan is upon the people of Palestine. Secondly, we will be talking about question mark as far as the credibility of the Indian elections that are going to be held in the month of May all across India is concerned. The Election Commission is seeing a lot of turbulence because one of the election commissioners has apparently resigned due to pressure, due to some other tactic, or whether it be to make some inner changes in the election commission is something that we will know in due time. But a lot of changes are happening so that the BJP can achieve the needful, that is the electorate, the vote bank that it is needed for it to come back into power. Can the BJP do that in a country that it says is the largest democracy in the world and a pluralistic country? That we'll be discussing in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about the beginning of Ramadan. We all know that the Central Hilal Committee sat down and announced that the Ramzan moon has been sighted, and the first of Ramadan will be tomorrow all across Pakistan, irrespective of the place that you are living in. Tomorrow will be the first Roza or the first day of fasting. Of course, there are the different parts of the world where the holy month of Ramadan has already begun, like in Palestine, like in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries. Of course, we wish all our comrades, our brothers in all of those countries all the very best for their first fast, but for us it will be starting from tomorrow. And finally, we'll be talking about the Academy Awards or the Oscar Awards, ladies and gentlemen. The 96th edition of the Academy Awards were held yesterday in the US and this morning in Pakistan. Oppenheimer got the best of the lot with 7 awards. This was followed by Poor Things, which got 4 awards, and of course other important winners of past awards have gotten their awards again in these segment of the Academy Awards. But Emma Stone, who had not gotten a major Best Actress award, did get it for this time in the Academy Awards for her role in Poor Things. This will be discussed in our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns day 157 of Israel-Palestine war. We've been joined in the studios by Sarwar Naqvi Sahab. He's a former ambassador. Thank you very much, Naqvi Sahab, to have joined us. Naqvi Sahab, I'll begin with the fact that in Palestine, Ramadan has begun. The first fast was today. The UNRWA says that hunger is everywhere in Gaza and calls for an immediate ceasefire during this holy month. The Palestinian ministry has also called on the United Nations Security Council to assume its responsibilities in translating United Nations Resolution 2720 into binding procedures and measures that force Israel to implement all the provisions of the United Nations and also the International Court of Justice. Will that happen?
Well, the short answer is no. But then I must explain a little bit,
please,
especially for your listeners. The international community has been acting with some degree of concern at the situation in the Gaza conflict, and several initiatives have been taken. The first one was by the OIC, in which there was a combined meeting of the OIC and the Arab League, and they made a very strong démarche on the Western countries. Second, was a number of meetings at the Security Council which were only consultative meetings. They did not achieve any resolution that could be imposed upon Israel. And third, the International Court of Justice, where the case has been registered by the South African government, and the South African position is that a genocide is being committed in the Palestinian territory of Gaza and also West Bank. So these initiatives are there, but your original question whether they can be implemented, they haven't been implemented, and they are not likely to be implemented. And this is the very sort of pathetic part of this whole story, that the international community is unable to do anything. The other day somebody said the Western countries are not acting on this and they are just sitting there. I said no, there are two parts to it. One is the governments of the Western countries are not taking any action. In fact, some of them are expressing support for Israel, for the so-called quote-unquote defense of Israel, and they are just not acting in any manner to stop it. But the public opinion, even in the Western countries, is very vocal.
But you know, despite the public opinion, Ali Naqvi Sahab, do you feel that has any impact on the decisions taken by the governments?
Well, no, but it will have an effect in due course of time. Like, I'll give you an example.
All right.
I met a member of the British Parliament, of the House of Commons, who said that before David Cameron became Foreign Secretary, the whips who control the discipline of the members, they were urging them not to even use the word ceasefire, because they said that it would impinge upon Israeli security. You just imagine how distorted the whole perception is. But after Cameron came, at least ceasefire word was being used. So, you know, the Western countries have a totally different mindset, and even calling for a ceasefire was not acceptable to the government benches.
But you know, you were talking of the British government. The elections are also going to be held in the British government by the end of the year.
Yes.
And the current opposition is also quite vocal in its support of the Palestinians, as far as, you know, having a ceasefire and, you know, giving the Palestinians their due right. Do you feel that will also signal a change as far as the United Kingdom is concerned?
Yes, I think it will. But as you said, the elections are still some way off, and the crisis is so immediate that there has to be immediate end to the bombing campaign of the Israelis. Now, of the IDF, as they call it. I think the real sort of complaint, in my personal opinion, is against the Muslim countries, where nothing is happening and they are not taking any action. There was just report of one demonstration in Amman.
But you know, for example, the peace talks were held. Jordan was there, you know, Egypt was
in
there,
Qatar,
and there have been very strong statements by the OIC, by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and other important Islamic countries. Pakistan has been quite vocal as far as its support for the Palestinian cause is concerned. Our Foreign Office has time and again issued statements as far as, you know, highlighting the atrocities that the Israelis are perpetrating on the Palestinians is concerned. So, what I want to understand is, coming to the ceasefire, Ali Naqvi Sahab, Joe Biden was very vocal about the ceasefire happening before the holy month of Ramadan began, and that he said it was going to happen, and he has again reiterated the fact that this ceasefire is going to happen. The holy month of Ramadan has begun in Palestine, but there is no talk of ceasefire. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The ground offensive in Rafah hasn't begun, but the air offensive is going on, and the people are still being denied their due rights, whether it be food, water, or health facilities. Should we be optimistic about a ceasefire deal during this holy month?
I don't think I would not even call it optimism, because even if it comes, and let's hope that it does, it's coming after what, 30,000 people dead?
More than 31,000.
More than 31,000 children dead. the stench of dead bodies is pervading the entire area. There is no food, there is no water. The
people are dying of dehydration. 27 people have died of dehydration, including children.
And of starvation. And of starvation. There was this WhatsApp video I just saw where there was a man distributing bread, just bread. And people were saying that this man hasn't eaten for the last 2 weeks, not even a piece of bread. So, this kind of callous disregard of human values.
But this is not a callous disregard, this is ethnic cleansing, this is genocide, if I may add to what you have been saying. But despite the International Court of Justice warning Israel not to pursue activities that would amount to ethnic cleansing or genocide, Israel has been going the opposite. In fact, Netanyahu has very recently said while addressing media that he will go on with the Rafah offensive, the ground offensive. This is what I am referring to. I fail to understand why somebody cannot put a stop to these activities, because Israel can do nothing without the support of its main allies, can it?
Yes, it can't. And even if it does, it won't last very long, because they are getting arms shipments, they are getting aircraft which are carrying out the bombings. So, this, the countries involved have to realize that it is unprecedented suffering of one large body of population without any recourse to any kind of assistance. Even the aid convoys, the aid trucks,
they are not being allowed to properly enter.
Not allowed to even reach the people who need the aid. So, this, I think it is unprecedented and totally without any parallel an event which we are fated to look at and to see. And the world entire world is responsible for this. I think even if you allow me to express my personal opinion, even I think Hamas should realize that the kind of suffering that is being perpetrated upon its people, they have to do something. And the talks in Qatar, the Hamas representatives,
they say that they have not even been invited for this part of the talks. In the past, Israel did not send its delegation to Cairo for these very talks on the ceasefire. I fail to understand that if there is a genuine concern by all sides, why isn't Israel participating with its convoy? Why aren't they taking the decisions? It doesn't take long to take concrete decisions, does it? At least for a temporary ceasefire for this 40 days.
Honestly, yes. This is totally inexplicable and absolutely outrageous that this kind of thing is happening, and the Israelis are hell-bent upon destroying the Palestinian people, annihilating them.
They are also annihilating all signs of humanity or human rights in the world by showing to the world that, look, we can do whatever we want to and nobody can lay a hand on us. This said, with the holy month of Ramadan is honest, they are not even the Muslim worshippers in Palestine are not even allowed to go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque to pray on the eve of Ramadan. I mean, can you believe the extent of, degradation of human rights that these people that call themselves Israelis are involving the Palestinians in?
Yes.
To which extent, what is the limit that they will further now achieve? They have, I think, gone to the pits as far as the complete degradation of human rights is concerned. What more can they do?
Quite right. I think they will continue on this path, continue to multiply the sufferings, continue to degrade as many people as they can, and they are hell bent. They are hell bent on doing all they can to completely subjugate, subdue, and annihilate the Palestinian people.
Ali Sarwar Naqvi sahab, also there There's no food, there's no water, there's also no health services, no medicine, no instruments, no, you cannot even clean the instruments properly because the swabs are not available. As a result of it, there are thousands of patients with kidney disease. There are children who are being amputated because their limbs cannot be taken, they can be operated upon because they don't have the necessary instruments or necessary electricity to undergo these operations, and the list goes on and on. Hospitals are non-functional because they have been bombarded by the Israeli forces. Scores of hospitals have been bombarded, deliberately saying that camps of Palestinian extremists are inside them when they have found no trace whatsoever, and then they come out with small evidence of one or two things that saying that that is why we bombarded. Reminds us of Iraq, to be very frank. Will there be any respite in your point of view?
I certainly hope so, and we hope for it all the time. But I am afraid the Israeli mindset is so stubborn, completely inhuman, and totally devoid of any feelings. They are just acting like total robots.
But why are they doing that? Weren't they themselves victims post the Second World War?
Yes, and they are doing it to another people. These people had nothing to do with what happened to them in Europe. That was done by the Europeans, not by the poor Palestinian Arabs, and they are inflicting it upon the Arabs.
And it is their land, it is the land of the Arabs, it has been their land for generations, and they are now being thrown out of their own lands, being not given the necessary amounts of water, food, medicine, and deliberately being cramped in one small area and then being bombarded upon.
Yeah. This degradation, by the way, Omar, has been going on for some long time. I served as ambassador in Jordan, in Amman, and there are many Palestinian families which are settled in Amman. So one family, the lady told us, the wife of the gentleman whose house we were visiting, that our house was taken over by Jewish settlers, and when the peace treaty was signed with Israel, between Jordan and Israel, they went to Jerusalem to see their old house. And as they were standing there looking at their old house, the Jewish occupants came out and said, they shooed them away, said, "Hush, go away, what are you doing?" So they behave like this, and these people said that they owned this house. They owned this house before. So the Jewish population is totally hostile to the Arabs. They don't give them any the consideration of human sympathy or understanding, and they are totally materialistic. And I don't want to sound anti-Jewish, but the other thing was that in Jordan, Prince Hassan himself told me that these Israeli tourists who come here, they don't spend a penny. So tourism brings some income for the people, for the traders and for the shopkeepers. They don't spend any money. They bring their own sandwiches and their own flask of tea or water, and they consume that, and in the evening they leave and don't take a hotel room. So the Jewish people have always been very stingy and that kind of mindset. So the Jordanians have not benefited at all from the treaty that they signed.
But the Jordanians are still trying to have some kind of a ceasefire. On the other hand, the Israeli side doesn't seem at all interested as far as that is concerned. In fact, speaking of Israel, the ambassador to the United Nations has called on Antonio Guterres to resign. He says 90%, and I will quote what he said. He said 90% of his time is occupied with the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip. Why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't he occupy most of his time with what is happening in the Gaza Strip? Because it is a major human catastrophe that is unfolding in front of our eyes.
Exactly.
How can Israel have the gall to even ask such a question and ask for the United Nations Secretary General to step down. I mean, who empowers Israel to say such questions?
How can they ask for resignation of the Secretary General? I mean, the Secretary General is sitting there to help cooperation between member countries. That is the role of the, amongst other things, of the Secretary General, besides administering the Secretariat of the UN and all that. To call upon him to resign because he is raising the humanitarian issue. He is not talking about the politics.
Exactly.
He is talking only about the suffering
of the people in Palestine.
Yes, and even that is being objected to by the Israeli ambassador. So, you know, it is unfortunate that this state exists in that area, and I was never an advocate of complete wiping out of Israel, which I don't think will happen with the West always supporting it. But, you know, one's heart says that if that were to happen, that won't be a bad thing.
But you know, speaking of that, why are so many countries so afraid to use the term starvation in the Gaza Strip? I'd like to remind you of something, and our viewers as well, of some things that happened a couple of days back. Leaders from the 10-member Association of South Asian Nations, that is ASEAN, and Australia were reported to be struggling to find a common ground on the war in Gaza and to work on a joint declaration. But in this joint declaration, there were deep divisions within the countries behind closed doors. Singapore has balked at a suggestion to condemn the use of starvation in the Gaza Strip. This has been reported by the AFP, and this is not something that I'm making up for myself. There is some kind of fear or some kind of, not the intention to not say what is actually happening within Palestine. Why is that so?
Well, it is very unfortunate that some countries have taken that kind of position, perhaps thinking that would please the United States. I mean, Singapore is very independent, but in some matters they bow to the Western countries. I have often been to the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore, and I know that their government is very mindful of Western reaction to whatever they say. So they are probably not keeping very cautious, being cautious and keeping everything clean as far as they are concerned.
Well, I think there's no harm in calling a spade a spade. You can keep good relations with any country in the West as long as you also highlight what are the atrocities that are going on in certain parts of the country. And I'd like to name Palestine first, and then the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir as the second. And it's so unfortunate that the champions of human rights, are not calling out those groups, those countries that are perpetrating these human rights abuses.
Yes. You know, Omar, I personally feel, this is a personal opinion, that the Muslim countries should all give a collective warning to Israel to stop the bombing. Otherwise, they will take military action against it. But this is not happening.
All right. Well, let's see what happens in the next couple of days. First of all, let's hope that there's some kind of a temporary ceasefire that happens at least during the holy month of Ramadan, and that better sense prevails, and that maybe after that there could be some talks of a permanent ceasefire and then talks of a two-state solution, or any solution that could be viable for the people in Palestine, because this is what needs to be done right now, because it's way too late, because before it even goes beyond Palestine, because we are seeing what is happening in Lebanon, we are seeing what is happening in Yemen, we are seeing what is happening in the Red Sea. This conflict is already escalating, and if it is not stopped right now, it will engulf all the countries within the Middle East.
Yes. And the two-state solution is the most rational, the most equitable and the fairest of any proposal that has been put forward. So the international community and most of the countries must support the idea of a two-state solution, which is what Pakistan does also.
Exactly. Let's see what happens in the next couple of days, especially during this holy month of Ramadan. Thank you very much, Ali Sarwar Naqvi sahab, to have joined us and to have discussed this very prevalent issue not only from a regional or international perspective, but also from a human rights perspective. I think as human beings, something that our religion also teaches us, that we need to be cognizant of humanity of human beings and give people their rights irrespective of caste, creed or religion. And unfortunately, this is not what is happening in Palestine. Let's hope better sense prevails. Thank you very much, sir. Let's come to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns India. All is not well, it seems, in the Election Commission as far as India is concerned. We've been joined by Dr. Adam Saud, foreign affairs expert, to discuss more on that. Dr. Adam, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Adam, the opposition parties in India are targeting the central government after the resignation of the election commissioner Arungoyal. What does Commissioner Arungoyal's resignation before the 2024 elections in India say as far as the credibility of the election commission is concerned, weeks before the elections are to be held in India?
Thank you very much, Khalid, Omar Khalid. Thank you very much for inviting me to discuss on this very important issue. As you have already mentioned, the resignation has just come just weeks before the elections. And we know that the Indian elections are very important in a sense that it is the world's largest democracy. And we see that
but Dr. Adam Saud, is it the world's largest democracy? This is what I want to understand, because the way the rumor mill is churning things one after the other as far as India is concerned, should it be called the largest democracy or even a pluralistic country for that matter?
I said so-called largest democracy in the world, so-called. I use this word as well. So on average, there are 6 elections that are conducted every year. It means the Election Commission of India is always very much onto its toes, and it's very much, active in that particular sense. So it is very unfortunate, I would say, that the Election Commissioner has resigned just weeks before the general elections, which are going to be conducted, very soon. So I think this resignation has profound effects and impacts on the credibility and fairness of the general elections which are going to be held in India. Overall, the general elections of 2024, they are not only having the national interest or importance, massive importance so far the local or the national or internal politics of India is concerned, but I personally think they have profound impacts on not only on the regional but the global politics as well. We know that the alliances and counter-alliances, realignment, I would say, at the regional level and at the global level is very important in this context. So over the period of time, we have seen Modi and Biden administration, they are getting closer to each other. And we see that their closeness is not only in context of the regional politics, but at the global level as well. So I think, making elections controversial, this resignation, actually, it has made the elections controversial in India. They are going to have a deep impact not only on the internal politics of India, but onto the regional and global politics as well.
Now,
so if you look at
Dr. Adam Saud, do you feel that the Indian opposition parties that are currently also vying for the top seats post the elections are taking advantage of this lacuna as far as the Election Commission of India is concerned? I'd like to quote what Congress chief Mr. Kharge said. He asked whether it was Election Commission or Election Omission. The Congress Secretary General, Mr. Venugopal, has also alleged there was no transparency in how a constitutional institution like the Election Commission of India was functioning, and accused the central government of pressurizing the body. When there are such important allegations that are being made by the opposition, do you feel there will be some kind of respite and answer by the BJP, or is it part of BJP's machinations as well?
Well, I think if you look at the opposition parties, yes, they have
some kind of a technical issue. We are going to get back to Dr. Adam Saud as soon as we can. I was just telling you about the resignation of Arungoyal, who is the election commissioner of the Election Commission of India. That leaves us with just them, not us, them with only one person in the Election Commission of India when the elections in India are to happen in the month of May. The Election Commission's primary job to maintain the level playing field during polls appears also to be in jeopardy, with its fairness often questioned as well. Now, of course, when you see in this another blow, when the Election Commissioner Arungoyal has announced his resignation days before the Election Commission of India was supposed to announce the details for the Lok Sabha elections, this poses a lot of question marks as to A, the transparency of the whole mechanism of the elections, B, the mechanism with which the elections are going to take place, and C, the level playing field that the opposition could or could not be given in these elections as well. Now, this is the first time since 1993 that the poll panel has had only a single commissioner. The Election Commission in India had become a 3-member body on the 1st of January 1990 to check the then Chief Election Commissioner Mr. Seshan and to present collective leadership. Goyal is the second election commissioner to have resigned in the last 5 years. Again, a lot of question marks come up as to why 2 election commissioners have resigned in India, a country where, as Mr. Saud also said, the elections regularly happen more or less in some part of the country every year, and the Election Commission needs to be on its toes. But unfortunately, with such quote-unquote pressure tactics by the BJP government, as is being alleged by the Congress and other opposition parties, this is not going to bode well, let's put it very frankly, as far as the whole transparency of the election process in India is concerned. Before his resignation, we've already told you that there was another also member of the Election Commission who had resigned, and a lot of pressure was also being put on his wife, who was also working in the government of India. The fact is that different pressure tactics are being used by the BJP government, and that is why the Congress party has demanded the Election Commission of Pakistan, India should come clear on why Mr. Goyal had resigned. We've been rejoined by Dr. Saud. Yes, Dr. Saud, you were telling me about this whole mechanism and these question marks that are being raised by the opposition parties as a result of the resignation of Arun Goyal.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry I lost my connection. Actually, I was talking about the 28 political parties alliance that has been made by the opposition parties, and the alliance has been named as the Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance. So if we acronym it becomes India. So actually, all these political parties, they have alleged that the Election Commission of India is not giving them the level playing field as well. Because we know that the Indian Election Commission is not an independent body now. So if you look at the pre-poll surveys that has been conducted by different organizations, there's a mixed results which show that maybe the BJP, currently BJP is actually at the top of those polls, and it is expected that it's going to win the next elections as well. Actually, it's not only the case that the Election Commission of India has been maneuvered, or it has been made controversial by the BJP government, but there are so many other reasons which can be counted, or which should be counted for the to analyze the upcoming Indian. One thing that is very important is that BJP has constructed the narratives against the minorities, the narratives against Pakistan, and the most important thing is the RSS-centric extreme ideological grounds are actually behind the driving forces behind the BJP's narratives and BJP's election manifesto as well. So the opposition political parties in India, they are right in claiming that the elections had been made controversial, because the election commissioner could have resigned after the elections as well. The elections are not so far. So there are chances that the election commissioner had been pressurized by the regime to make certain arrangements in favor of them. So I think the opposition political parties' demand and their concerns are genuine. And if you look at the BJP's manifesto right now, they have revoked the Kashmir special status, and they have made that part and parcel of India. They have, if you look at the 2023 Kerala elections, all the election campaign had been that was based on the Hindu nationalism and the hate speech and hate ideology, I would say. And one more thing, you must have analyzed and understood that BJP is using the disinformation and misinformation strategies and tactics in India. They have created a force, I would say, a force that is actually projecting the narrative and hate speech of BJP among the Hindu population of India. So overall, we see that this polarization in the Indian society is also reflecting in the BJP's politics as well. Now, I think the opposition political parties, they say that they claim that this polarization in politics, it should be, or it needs to be countered through the social justice based politics. Now, how they are going to implement or they would be successful in order to implement this social justice based politics, it's a matter of time. So we have to wait and see what would be the outcome of this kind of demands and the results of the election as well. But overall, what is seen in the outcome of the 2024 election is that the BJP is going to win these elections and they are going to make government for the third time as well.
All right, but Dr. Adam sir, in all of this, there is the question of giving a level playing field. That is the job of the Election Commission of India has been. As you said, it's a very busy election commission because there are elections happening more or less every year, but in some part of India. So doesn't that raise questions not within India but also outside of India as far as the authenticity of giving a level playing field to all the parties concerned is concerned? And when you look at the resignation that comes at such a very strange juncture, just a few weeks before the elections, the main elections are going to be held, and as you said, the BJP is going to regain power for the third time as a result of these elections. Won't that also pose a question mark on the credibility of these very elections if events such as these keep on happening?
Yes, definitely. I mean, this is crystal clear. And if you look at the results of the previous elections, the electronic voting machines, there were reports that even those electronic voting machines, they were maneuvered. And that these EVMs, they can be hacked as well, and there are chances as well. So look, the elections credibility is always at the stake now. The BJP's government, actually, it wants to continue with its policies, and for that, they need to win the election at any cost. They won't care about what the international society or international community is thinking about them. Look, one example is the offshore killings. There have been so many incidents now, 3-4 major incidents where it has been proved by the international investigators, the BJP government, it had been involved into the killings of, particularly the killings of Sikh leaders, not only in the neighboring countries but even in Canada as well. So if they can do that, and they do not care about the international community's reaction, I think there won't be any serious concern so far. BJP's government in India is concerned that the people, the international community, it would be criticizing, or it would put a question mark onto the credibility of the 2024 general elections.
All right, now Dr. Adam sir, you talk of the electronic voting machines and of course the question marks that are also being raised as far as the credibility of these electronic voting machines is concerned. Don't you feel that the questions that are being raised as far as these electronic voting machines are concerned, just a couple of weeks before the elections are to happen, should be called fair questions? And should these be addressed before the elections, or do you feel these they won't be addressed and the things will go as normal so as to benefit a certain political party in India?
I think there's too short time to fix all these problems. But I think, these problems have deliberately been created in order to favor up the BJP, I would say.
All right.
And I think it's the strategy of BJP to maneuver all the electoral processes, and out of which maybe they are looking towards the two-third majority, absolute majority, two-third majority, in order to bring certain amendments into the constitution, in order to bring certain, radical changes into the political structure of India. Maybe, that may be their thinking, who knows, because that is a fascist political party, extremist, it has extremist ideology. So I think there are slim chances that, these problems are going to be fixed. Things would aggravate, I personally think. The problems would increase instead of decrease.
And things are going to be more contentious as far as time goes by, and the elections start getting nearer and nearer. And of course, this will give also the Indian combined opposition that field to also pinpoint what is happening and what the BJP has been perpetrating and is still doing as far as these elections is concerned. Well, we'll wait and see, and we'll of course be highlighting those irregularities as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Adam Saud, foreign affairs expert, to have joined us to talk about the election irregularities in India that are happening now with the resignation of Arungoyal, who is the Election Commissioner of India. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first, of course, is the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, which is upon us, and it will be beginning starting from tomorrow. The first Tarawih prayers, of course, will be held in a short while after the Isha prayers. The Ramadan moon has been sighted in the country. Addressing the media, the chairman of the Central Hilal Committee confirmed this because a meeting was held in Peshawar for sighting the moon of Ramadan 1445 Hijri, and now that it has been sighted, it will be the first of Ramadan all across the country tomorrow. But there are other parts of the world where Ramadan already has happened today, whether it be in certain countries of the Middle East, whether it be in the United States of America or in Canada or in some other countries. It was already the first fast. Today we wish all our Muslim brothers in all of those countries all the very best, and of course all our Pakistani friends all the very best for the first day of Ramadan and the first fast. May this month be a blessed one, and may this month bring in all the end to our worries, to our wars, whether it be personal or professional or for our country. May our country be successful and continue on the vein of economic progress and stability. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns the Academy Awards. The 96th Academy Awards were held last night, last early evening in the United States, but it was early morning here in Pakistan. The major winner, Oppenheimer, the film that was made by on basically the inventor of the atomic bomb, and it won 7 Oscar awards, including Best Picture, Best Director for Christopher Nolan, and best lead actor for Cillian Murphy, and supporting actor for Robert Downey Jr. Poor Things, a Frankenstein kind of a film, a very twisted film, also got 4 awards, including Best Actress for Emma Stone, who was not expecting it, but of course this and 3 other awards were given to Poor Things, and then Holdovers, which got the award for Best Supporting Actress, and American Fiction, Best Screenplay, and so on. But the major award winners this time were Oppenheimer and Poor Things. All the very best. But at the same time, director Jonathan Glazer also addressed Israel's war on Gaza in his acceptance speech, and he talked about when he was talking about his film Zone of Interest. He said, "Right now we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people." This is being highlighted at different fora, and we can see that. With that, we come to an end of today's news. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Blessed Ramadan to all of you. Allah Hafiz.